I'm going to explain this to you. Right now the Wi-Fi in your house is 2.4 gigahertz. That's the frequency that stuff broadcasts on. Now, you can't open up a radio station without an FCC license. You've got to have a license to broadcast, and you've got to be given access to certain frequencies to broadcast on. That's called spectrum. They allot certain spectrum to certain companies, and if you haven't figured it out, your parents and your grandparents were watching the idiot box on the spectrum that was opened up 80 years ago, and the radio stations and the TV stations are controlled by 5 companies. Now they're probably controlled by 3 or 2. They have been feeding you lies for decades and decades and decades. You can't broadcast unless the FCC gives you a license. Now what they've done is the most harmful frequencies imaginable. You know, the 2.4 gigahertz, that happens to be the frequency that the water molecules start to rotate on their axis when they're hit with the radio frequency emissions at that particular frequency. Why are they messing with the water molecules? Well, we're 70% water, and they know what this stuff does. So what the FCC did is they opened up that frequency band, that part of the spectrum, to everybody. You don't need a license to broadcast on it. And you know what that did? That virtually ensures complete proliferation and saturation of radio frequency emissions in that part of the spectrum. In other words, they want to bathe you in the frequency that messes with the water molecules. Is that a good idea? That's not a good idea. Maybe you're not aware of this. So they got you addicted to Wi-Fi and your gadgets. They're doubling down now because they're coming out with a new frequency. Because they claim that you can't get enough of your Netflix and enough of your stupid movies or whatever you have to check, that these frequencies are getting congested. There's too much traffic. It's a bunch of frickin' hogwash, folks. Everything works just fine right now. The systems that are in place with these towers is so overkill it's not even funny. They could run 100,000 times more devices than they're using right now. They got you addicted to these devices. Now they're going to bring a new technology out. This really scares me to go into this because this is the end. They've opened up, the FCC's opened up the millimeter wave band, and they're going to be broadcasting on 60 gigahertz, folks. Wi-Fi right now is using the frequency of water molecules. Their rotation on their axis begins at 2.4 gigahertz. In other words, that's the spot on the spectrum of the trillions of frequencies. That's the spot on the spectrum where the maximum dielectric loss of water begins. That's a fancy term for when they start rotating, trying to line up to keep pace with the alternating field, electromagnetic field. So it causes water molecules to vibrate on their axis. Well,